A few years ago in my photography business, I realized something. I was working nonstop, but my bank account didn't show it. The only way I could book more was by working more. And the only way I could work more was by using more and more of my own time. That was until I made these 4 key changes that practically allowed me to double my prices overnight. And I started attracting clients that valued my work. I'm going to show you exactly what those 4 changes were. I know, raising your prices might feel scary, but it was the single most powerful move I made in my photography business. And I guarantee it will help you. I thought clients would run away, that I would lose bookings. But actually, the opposite happened. I actually started attracting better clients that respected my time, that paid faster, that dressed better, that had nicer venues, that stayed at nicer hotels. They had better details, nicer flowers. Because in general, people that pay more for everything. And they're okay with that. Best of all, they referred me more often. So how did I double my rates and keep booking? I did it without changing my editing style. I did it without buying new gear. I didn't do anything fancy. So what did I use to charge and why wasn't it working? When I started out, I charged what I thought people would pay, not what I needed to be profitable or run a healthy business. I used to charge $500 for a wedding and $75 for a portrait session. Now, mind you, this was early 2000s, right? 2004, 2003. That $500 wedding had about $350 of film costs, right? These were film days. So I was maybe making about $100 for a 6 to 8 hour day. That was pretty lousy. I remember my portrait sessions were $75 and half the time, at the time I lived in Riverside, California, and I would drive to LA, I would drive to Anaheim, Irvine, Lake Arrowhead to do these different sessions for $75. I was literally broke. So why didn't this stuff work, right? I was over-delivering and undercharging. I was doing such a bang-up job. I kept getting all these referrals, but I didn't have any money to help me keep moving the business forward. I didn't feel confident in asking for more money. I felt it was wrong. Like I had this limiting belief in my mind that the right thing is to charge people less, which 100% was my fault and something from my upbringing. I had to change that mindset. Clients would treat me like a vendor. Oh, the photographer's here. Okay, just sit there and wait. And when I raised my prices, it changed from, oh, okay, sit there and wait to, hey, the photographer's here. We got to get stuff done. He has a schedule. It was a huge difference in the way I was treated. Comment been there if you've ever gone through this. I didn't just feel underpaid. I felt undervalued, overwhelmed, and I was so busy, but I didn't have anything to show for it. I couldn't even take my then girlfriend, now my wife, out on a decent date, but everybody thought I was doing so well because I was so busy. Proof that busyness doesn't equal money, okay? And I didn't realize that it was my pricing that was actually hurting my business and keeping me broke. It was my pricing that was attracting the wrong client. It was my pricing that didn't allow me to even have breathing room to gather my thoughts. And it wasn't until I went to a networking meeting, I met a photographer that later became a business coach that really taught me how to run a business and be an entrepreneur instead of letting the business run me, right? And he explained to me why people pay premium prices. Because most photographers think that if they raise their prices, they'll lose clients. And I promise you, I'm here to tell you, you won't lose the good clients, you'll only lose the bad clients, which is perfectly fine, right? Because raising your prices actually benefits both sides. You start attracting clients who value quality and an experience, right? They don't just care necessarily about the photos. They do, but that's not their number one reason for booking you. You filter out budget shoppers. You can go to my website, LaBrada.com, under details. It tells you exactly what my starting price is. I don't get phone calls anymore for people in the $3,000 price range or $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 or even $7,000 anymore. And I filter brides out by that. Best of all, raising my price gave me the space to offer gifts if they book my higher end packages. If you book my higher end packages now, right, these are upwards of $10,000, $12,000, $14,000. You get 2 bottles of Dom Perignon, one for your engagement session, one for your wedding day, or they get bottles of Krug champagne. That is my thank you for booking me kind of gift. Depending on which package they get, they also get prints and some canvases, etc. But what I've also realized, just as an aside, The more affluent your client is, the less big prints they will buy because they don't have their wedding photos on the wall. They have a Monet, they have a Van Gogh. The rest of the photos, family stuff, are 8 by 10, maybe 11 by 14s that go on the piano. Okay, so that's just putting that out there. And more importantly, the reason to raise your price is because it will allow you to shoot less and earn way more, freeing up your time to think. And in that thinking, you'll be able to create more offers. And in creating those more offers, you get more sales. Okay, you see how it's like a cycle. So premium pricing isn't just about the numbers. It's about positioning yourself as a higher priced photographer. So how do you do that? These are the 4 changes I made that helped me raise my prices with confidence. Number 1, I clarified my brand. I stopped trying to be for everyone and I leaned into what I loved and the work and style that I wanted to shoot, right? I shot soft, airy, romantic, bright photos. That's my style, right? Yours might be dark, moody, etc., whatever, or in the middle. I only showed that work. I no longer let clients tell me, hey, I like this style of photographs. Can you shoot that? And I would say yes. I stopped doing that because regardless, I never put those pictures on my website. And if I did put those images on the website, it confused the viewer because I had too many different styles of photography. Which one was I going to do for them? Okay, that's something you have to think about. I only showed work that I loved. I only showed clients that were portfolio pieces. I only showed clients that resonated with me and my work and my style and would resonate with the bride that liked seeing that style or saw herself in those photos. I'm going to tell you a secret. You don't have to show everybody. You need to curate your website, your Instagram, your TikTok, wherever you show your images, you need to curate it to what you want to show. Not every picture is a keeper and not every client is a portfolio piece. Number 2, I refined my inquiry process. There was no more ghosting. There was no more awkward emails. I learned, refined, and created a system that pre-qualified people before I even shared my pricing or had to get on a phone call with them. And if you'd like to know what those are, check out the description. I have my email templates in there. 100% every email that I use is in that pack. Number 3, I created packages based on value and not just on hours. People don't want 6, 8, 10, 12, 16 hours. What they really want is peace of mind, their memories preserved, and someone who knows what they're doing. That's what I started selling, right? Think of it like this. You get a bride on the phone, Zoom call, etc. Do not send your pricing via email, okay? That's a no-no. You're gonna get ghosted. Those are price shoppers. We don't deal with price shoppers. When people sell packages on hours, what they're telling the bride is, if you only get this 6-hour package, then I'm not sure I can cover everything for you. If you get this 8-hour package, you might be able to get everything covered. But if you get this 12-hour package, for sure you can get everything covered. What she's really buying is getting everything covered. She's not really buying the 12 hours, right? Even though that's how it's sold. Number 4, I got comfortable saying my price and saying it out loud because I was kind of like, oh yeah, my price is $3,200. That was huge for me, right? I practiced, I role played. What I practiced was when I look people in the eye on the Zoom now or on a phone call, I would say, my wedding day coverage starts at $3,000 and an all-inclusive wedding collection starts at $5,500. And it's the same thing now, same verbiage, different number. So I got comfortable saying my price out loud and then I shut up about it. When I had people on the phone or on a video chat, I tell them the price, we walk through what's in the collection, and I say nothing. And the silence is golden. Their body language, their silence will tell you what is going to happen. I realized that when they were silent, it wasn't a no, they were just thinking. And I'll give you an example because it was actually kind of funny. We have 2 kids, little boy and little girl, they're 6 and under. For my daughter's 4th birthday, we wanted to get a huge water slide. And so I called the place up. Hi, do you have water slides? Yeah, we have a 16-foot for $350 for the day. We have a 24-foot for $700 for the day. And we have a 36-foot for $2,000 for the day. And I said, okay. And I said nothing. But I wasn't thinking about the price. I was thinking about the size. I was thinking, is it 16 feet high or 16 feet long? Is it 24 feet high, like they climb 24 feet up, or is it 24 feet long? Is it 36 feet up or 36 feet long? And he, because of that pause, he had a fear, and he said, if you want the 24 foot though, I can do it for 400. And my wife and I looked at each other like, the 24 foot is great. Sounds good. We weren't concerned about the price. We were trying to figure out what we needed. So he lost $250 as far as I remember. Might have been a little more. Later I found out the number of the slide is how high it is. Okay. They also later, as an aside, the 36 foot high one was like 80 feet long, and we didn't even have the space for that. So that was out of the picture anyway. All right, I digressed. So what kind of clients came after I made those 4 changes? Once I realized that once I raised my prices, the quality of my clients practically changed overnight because they were easier to work with. They trusted my creative process. They believed in me, right? And I'm not going to say I faked it till I maked it. Is that wrong? I booked it and I was scared that I couldn't deliver, even though it was the exact same process I had done probably then maybe 30 times, right? It was a mental block that I had that many of us have to overcome. Another reason to charge more was also because they referred higher end clients. For example, if my bride has a budget for a $100,000 wedding, if you look at her 5 closest friends, more than likely, if they're not married, they also have roughly a $60,000 to $120,000 budget for their weddings. 1, because people tend to stay within the same financial circles. And 2, they have to keep up with the Joneses. If Lisa had a $100,000 wedding and it was XYZ beautiful, well, Lisa's sister is going to have a nicer wedding. And you know what? Their best friend is going to have an even nicer wedding than her. Okay. And then there's going to be the other friend that, oh, well, it's not important to us. We're going to just have a $60,000 or $70,000 wedding, which honestly is still a decently expensive wedding. And more importantly, at the higher end echelon of pricing, they don't haggle. They don't ask for discounts. They respond quickly, right? And an answer yes or no is nice either way. And the biggest shift wasn't externally, right? Nothing really changed outside of me. What really changed was inside of me. And I had to start to believe that I had that value. Actually, it wasn't a belief. I had to know that I had that value, right? If you have a right hand, look at your right hand. Do you believe you have a right hand, or do you know you have a right hand? You know, right? Correct? So that's where the difference becomes. Because I now knew that I could get a higher price, I don't know if you believe in the woohoo energetic systems and all that, that client now sensed that, yeah, $5,000 is my everyday thing. It's not a big deal. And they say, okay, let's book that one. Let's book the 6,000. Let's book the 9,000. Now let's book the 12,000. So that's something to think about, right? If you're like me at all, the way I grew up, money wasn't talked much about because we didn't have any really. But more importantly, it was a limiting belief that I had that people wouldn't pay me more. And I'm reminded of the movie Luca with the fish kids. Is that derogatory? Anyway, Alfredo talks about Bruno. And Bruno is this little voice in everybody's head that tells them they're not good enough, that they're not capable, that they can't do it, all this stuff. So you might have a Bruno, you might have a brunette, right? Bruno is dark or brown in Italian. So yeah, you have brunette, right? A brunetta telling you not to do something, a Bruno telling you you're not good enough. You have to fight this Bruno and brunette. And I found that every time I fight this Bruno, I win. And sometimes Bruno wins and you have to fight him later, or brunette later. That's something to keep in mind. So if you're stuck charging $250 for a portrait session or sub $2,000 weddings, it's probably not your work that's the issue. It's your process, your positioning, and your pricing confidence. I can practically guarantee it. In the next video, I'll walk you through exactly how I price my wedding photography, how I budget myself, and how I came to the numbers that I use now. So you make money, and not just a little money, good money. So click on this video and I'll see you there.